Do you know that in 2019, Flipkart was attacked by the hackers and data of more than 1 million users was compromised, and it was an SQL injection attack. Now you may think that maybe the Flipkart developers have not coded their website in a well-mannered way, but you will be surprised to know that SQL injection attack is one of the top 10 cybersecurity attacks which happen every year. So welcome to Scale Up India channel. I'm Abhishek Verma and you have started watching JDBC part 4 where we are going to learn about SQL injection attack. Now in the last video we learnt about CRUD operations using statement, and hence it is the right time to learn what is this SQL injection attack, how it is performed and how we can mitigate the same. So here we have Ini and Mini, and Ini asks the same question like you, that what is this SQL injection attack? So the Mini says SQL injection is a type of code injection attack that is used to attack data driven applications. And when I say data driven application, Pakistan is also a currently data driven application, or whatever you think. It can be Amazon, it can be Flipkart, or it can be any other website. So most of these websites whichever contains your data are the data driven applications here. Now the next question is, how is this attack performed? So in this attack, the hackers provide a malicious SQL statement into some kind of search query. So you may have seen that in many of the websites you type some kind of query, or you just give some kind of user input and then some action is performed in the database. It can be to check the data on the basis of username and password, or it can be in order to check the data on the basis of date of birth or email ID or something different. And this is one of the reasons where SQL injection attack can happen. So now the question is that how dangerous this attack can be. So as I mentioned that this is one of the top 10 cybersecurity attacks which happen every year. So here once the user or once the hacker gains the access of the database, they can do anything with the data. And maybe your data has also been compromised because one of the SQL injection attack. Now the next question is, can this happen in our application Pakistan? The answer is yes, this can happen, and let's see the same in the code. So here we are in our demo 2 and let's go. So we have already covered most of the concepts in demo 2, and here I have just added one more part for the SQL injection attack. So for this let's try to execute the same, something like this. And if I scroll this up, so here you can see that now one more operation has been added, that is to fetch the owner details by the owner email ID and the pet date of birth. Now if you are following our JDBC series, then you know that in our Pakistan all the email IDs are unique, and for this I can show you this database.txt where we have mentioned that these email IDs are going to be unique and not null. So whenever you are going to pass an email ID plus a combination of date of birth, then you will be getting a unique data only. In case either the email ID doesn't exist, or the pet date of birth doesn't exist, or the combination doesn't exist, then you won't be getting any kind of output. So let's see how we are coding this kind of requirement. So for this, first of all we'll go to demo.java, and here as you can see we have this case 6. So here first of all we'll say accept owner email ID to operate. Let's see what's there. So here it is, and we are just asking the user to provide the email ID of the owner, and I'm using here next line deliberately so that I can provide the space in my input also. Now the next part was to accept the pet date of birth. So for this we are using this another method where we are providing the date of birth of the pet, and this is in the same format which we were using. Then after this we are calling the method find owner, and we are passing the email ID as well as date of birth. So let's go there. So in this method you can see it's very simple. I'm just accepting the email ID, pet date of birth, and I'm calling the method of repository. And interestingly in the output I'm returning a list. Now although I know that there is going to be only one owner with this particular email ID, but still I'm a little lazy in this, and I thought why to return a particular owner, let's return the owner DD only. I mean at max what will happen, the list is going to either contain one element or zero element, and hence I skipped this particular part. Now after this let's go to the repository method. So There we go, by saying open implementation. And as you can see, currently this method is not implemented. So it's just returning null. Now, since this method is returning a list and it's just a kind of read operation. So what we will do is, let's try to be little more lazy here. And instead of coding the whole thing again, we are going to copy this logic of find all owners, and then we are going to change the SQL query. So let's copy this and paste the same thing here, something like this. So everything is there. Now the only thing which we need to change is the SQL query. So here currently we are saying select star from owner table, but I need to find on the basis of email ID and pet date of birth. So for this, first of all, let's execute the query in our workbench and see how this is going to work. Then the same query we are going to copy and paste here. So let's go to our workbench. So this is our workbench, and if I say select star from owner table and execute, so you can see that I can see the data of all the owners, and currently we have around 72 users here. Now my requirement is to fetch the data as per the email ID and pet date of birth. So here I will say where email underscore ID, that is the column name, and then we are going to provide an email ID. So let's say that we are going to provide the email ID for any one of this user, whatever you wish. So let's see this James Taylor. So let me just copy this out from this. So I've copied it, I'm pasting it here. So this is James Taylor. So this is email ID for this person, and if I just select this one, so as you know that email IDs are unique, so only one row is going to be the output, but also we need to provide the pet date of birth, so that only when the combination is correct, then only we get the data. So here we'll say and for pet date of birth, so this is the variable name, that is pet underscore date underscore of and underscore birth, and then let's say equal to symbol, and then provide the date of birth. So I'll just copy this from here. So I have copied it and I am providing the same something here. And now let me execute the whole statement again. So now again you can see, I can see the same data as it is. Now if I will make any kind of mistake, let's say I give a wrong date of birth, then what do you think? Will I be getting the output or not? Let's execute. So on providing a wrong date of birth, if I execute, I won't get any kind of data. And in the same way, let's make it correct again. If I make any mistake in the email ID, let's say I skip the R here, and then if I execute, then also I won't get any kind of output. So that means it is for sure that only when both of these things are right and the combination exists, then only we will be getting some kind of output. So let me just execute it one more last time, and then we are going to copy and paste it in our code. So it is working fine. Let me copy this and move to our code. So let me paste it here, something like this, and let me remove this semicolon, it's not needed here. So this is our query, select star from owner table where email ID is this and pet date of birth is this. But the point is, we are not going to hard code it. Instead we need to take the owner email ID from the user input. So we'll copy this, and here we will be removing the code, as you know. And what I'll do is, I'll just say here this thing, single inverted commas, then I'll say plus, or single inverted commas, double inverted commas, I'll close this particular part, then I'll say plus, and then I'll provide the owner email ID, then again say plus, then double inverted commas, and then single inverted comma, and then we'll say the and pet date of birth, and here again we need to do the same thing. So we will be saying here plus, and here instead of this particular one, let me remove this part, and let me say here again plus, and here let me do something like this. So this is the one, and between these plus symbols, let me provide the pet birth date. So this is our pet birth date. So this is how our code is going to look like. Select star from owner table where email ID. Now since email ID was a string, so I'm providing it in single inverted commas. Then pet date of birth, and as you saw that this data also we need to provide in single inverted commas. So this is how it is going to look like. And what I also wish is that I wish to print this SQL statement so that we can see what is going on. So let's say sysout something like this and say SQL. So this is how it is going to look like our code. Rest of the things are same. So we are just returning the list, and hence everything I can use as it is. And we are very confident that either the list is going to contain one element or zero element in case the combination doesn't exist. Now let's execute the whole code again. So I'll go there and say execute. And here I will be providing the same details again. So for this, let me again copy the same email ID. So I will be copying this particular email ID here. So I'll say copy. I'll go here and I'll say paste. Or not this. I was a little wrong. First I need to say 6. Now it is asking me to enter the email ID. That's right. So I have provided the email ID. Now it is asking me for the date of birth. So let's go there again. Now this is 2015, 10 and 31. So let me copy and let me paste it here. But the point is that I need to give in this particular format DDMMYY. So let's correct the format. So here let me say 10 and here let me say 2015 and let me remove this extra data from here. So now the input looks fine. 31, 10, 2015. Let's execute. So on executing the same, you can see that I say select star from this particular thing, and this pet date of birth is also working. So this is how your query is going to look like, which is again the correct one, and we are getting the output. So since the combination was correct, so we got this particular output, which is same as we saw in our MSQL workbench. Now let me say continue again and give the data for one more time. So I'll say 6, and this time let's say that I don't know the email ID. So let me just say na@na.com here, something like this. And for the date of birth, let me say 12 hyphen whatever it is, or let me give this same date of birth as it is 31, and then this is 10, and then this is 2015. So for this time it says select star from this particular. So this is the query, and this time you see that we are not getting any kind of output. Why? Because this combination is not correct. This combination doesn't exist in our database, and hence I didn't got anything here. Let me execute it again, and again let me say 6, and this time let me copy this same email ID. So I have copied it and let me paste it here, and this time let me give a wrong date of birth. So let me say 11/11 and then 2010, and obviously again since the combination is wrong, I won't be getting any kind of output. And you will be happy by saying that okay, our code is working fine. Only when the combination is correct we are getting the output. Whenever the combination is wrong, we are not getting the output, and hence the requirement is finished. But that's not the case. Now let's say y again, and let's say 6, and this time let's again give the email ID. Now the hacker doesn't knows what is the right email ID. So hacker will say hacker@hacked, let's say hacker knows our scaleup India. So hacker will say hacker@scaleupindia.com. It can be any ID, but hacker is just using something like this. Now after this, hacker will do something like this. So hacker will say single inverted comma, then hacker will say or, and then hacker will say 1 equals to 1. And after this, hacker will say hyphen with some space, and again hacker will give a space. So this is the email ID which hacker is going to provide. As I said, malicious SQL query. And then they give something like this. And what is the date of birth for the pet? Again, since this is the hacker, so hacker can try any kind of data. So let's say 10/10 and let's say 2010, just something like this, anything randomly. And that's interesting. So you see, we got the output of all the owners, something like this. So isn't it amazing? And the best part is that this email ID doesn't even exist. So there is no email ID like hacker@scaleupindia.com. If you wish, let me just show you. So I will select this email ID. I'll go here. I'll provide the email ID here. And the date of birth was, as you remember, it was 2010. The month was 10 and the date was also 10. And if I select this, so the combination doesn't exist here because this email ID doesn't even exist. If we just try by the email ID, then also it doesn't exist. But here we just saw that hacker is able to see not only one data, but data of all our users. So hence we can say that hacker was able to perform the SQL injection attack by passing a malicious query, and the data of all the users got compromised. In our Pakistan also, the same way it happened in Flipkart, and the same way it happens every year in millions of websites. So what just happened here? Let's try to understand. So for this, let me copy this query. That is the reason I gave it a sysout. Otherwise, why are we going to provide a sysout here? So let me copy and paste it here. So what we will do is that here, let me just give an enter so that we can see everything clearly. So this is our main query, which a normal user can provide by just providing an email ID and the date of birth. And this is something which hacker has given. So hacker says here or, and let me break it in two parts, something like this. So there it goes. So there is a difference between these two queries. And the difference is that hacker gives this particular thing, that is single inverted commas at the end, because of which what happened, whatever your string email ID was started, it is ended, and then the hacker is saying or 1 equals to 1. So now this becomes a condition where email ID is something or 1 equals to 1. Now you know that 1 is always equivalent to 1 only, and hence this condition comes out to be true. And afterwards, what about this AND condition? So hacker has commented this particular condition by saying here hyphen hyphen. So in our SQL, what happens is whenever you say hyphen hyphen and then space before any kind of query, it becomes a comment. So hacker did the same thing. Hacker gave here hyphen hyphen and then the space. So this particular part became a comment, and now this is no more the part of our query, and our query is where the email ID is this or 1 equals to 1. And now on executing this particular thing, so if I execute the whole thing, then also I can see the data of all the users, or if I just execute this particular part, then also I can see the data of all the users, or let's say that even if I provide this as empty, something like this, then let's see. So if I select, then also I can see the data of all the users. Why? Because it doesn't matter what the email ID you are going to provide, but this condition 1 equals to 1, this is always true, because of which you are able to see the data of all the users. And it doesn't matter that why 1 equals to 1. It can be anything. It can be like 2 equals to 2, or it can be 3 equals to 3, A equals to A, or anything, whatever you wish. The only thing is this condition should be something like true, so that there is no significance of this where condition overall. So this is how the SQL injection attack can be performed. And here still we try to make a very simple SQL injection attack. But in the reality, you know that hacker can do anything with this. Now let's imagine that here, instead of saying, let's say in this particular part, instead of saying execute query, we start using execute update, because you remember there is one more method like execute update also, which is generally used for insert, update or delete kind of statement. But whenever we are coding, we forgot that particular thing and we thought execute update here. So in that particular case, what will happen? Let's say here I have mentioned execute update, and in the query we give something like delete or drop the database or something like this, and the whole database can be deleted as it is. The tables can be dropped, database can be deleted, and anything can be done. And this was about the Pakistan. Now imagine the same thing can happen in your bank accounts. So there someone is just providing their, let's say, the account number. Along with the account number, they give something like this kind of query. So again, that data can be compromised. And now you can understand that why this is one of the top 10 cybersecurity attacks which happen all over the world. Now for this, obviously, whose mistake is this? Obviously, it is the mistake of the coder. Because first of all, here we thought that even when the email IDs are unique, we are returning the list. So that is our number one mistake. That why we are returning the list? When I know that email ID is going to be unique, which means either 1 data or 0 data is going to be the output. Why am I returning the list? I should be returning just a single owner DTO. Yeah, so that is my number one mistake. Now in that case, imagine the hacker has given a wrong data. Then also only one of the output, only one owner data will be provided in the output, not the data of all the owners. So that way we can save the code. Another thing is that whenever we are accepting the data from the user, at that point of time, we need to be very strict. We need to follow a zero trust policy, which means that you can never trust your user. I mean, your customer can be anyone. It can be a hacker. It can be the actual customer. So whatever the user or the customer is providing as the input, we always need to validate the same. And for that particular validation, we can do it in our service IMPL. So here also we can do some kind of validation here. Another thing is, here you see that deliberately I allowed something like this. Now I know that email IDs can't have space. Obviously, email ID won't be having any kind of space, but in order to perform this kind of SQL injection attack, so that I can provide some space here, I deliberately used this particular next line instead of next. So that is again one of the ways. Hence, it is always necessary that whenever you are coding, you take care of all the scenarios. Never code too extra that okay, in future something like this can happen. It should not be the case that you say that okay, in future maybe email IDs can have space. That is not going to happen as of now. Currently, email IDs won't be having any kind of space. There is no need of next line. Even if you have given something like this, then you know that email IDs are unique. So never return a list. So again, that can be taken care. Another things which we can do is that here we can even sanitize our input more by saying that our input should not contain something like this. So that can be done. As of now, we are not doing those things because the application is very basic and our goal is to show you the JDBC. And another thing is that instead of using the statement, because that is one of the major culprit of having this SQL injection attack. So instead of going for the statement, we should be using prepared statement. Now you may ask, what are these prepared statement? So prepared statement is something which is not going to use your data as it is, and instead they will be having something like positional arguments in order to accept the data. Now you will say that okay, then show us how to make usage of prepared statement. So for that, the answer is we are not going to watch it in this video because then this video will become too long. So what we will be doing is we are going to have one more video where all the methods which we have done here or which we have coded here, we are going to do all the methods with the help of prepared statement, and then you will see that how we can mitigate this kind of SQL injection risk. So that was it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed the video and maybe you are also following our whole JDBC series. So again, you can download the code, you can perform this kind of attack, and don't use it for attacking some actual website. Instead, we should learn from this kind of mistakes and we should try not to code something like this, and watch our next video to understand what is prepared statement, how with the help of prepared statement this kind of risks can be mitigated very easily. Thanks everyone.